Imagine a quiet dawn, the world just beginning to stir. In this stillness, we find a moment is suspended between night and day, life and death. There is beauty in the brevity of it all, in the fragile hum of existence. Each breath we take, each step we tread, is a fleeting whisper in the vast expanse of time. And yet, in this transience, we find meaning. We are alive, knowing we will not always be. This is the essence of Memento Mori. To reflect on death, not as a harbinger of doom, but as a reminder that life's true value lies in its impermanence. But how often do we allow ourselves to truly contemplate our mortality? Does the awareness of death paralyze us with fear, or does it liberate us to live more fully? Can we truly appreciate the present without acknowledging the inevitability of its end? In a world that shies away from death, cloaking it in euphemisms and distractions, Stoics take a classically contrasting theme, utilizing the very act of remembering that we will one day, inevitably, die to be the secret of leading a more fulfilling life, a life filled with meaning. This video therefore delves into this secret, bringing into the forefront the wisdom of Stoics to add more life within life. Memento Mori, the gateway to presence. As a Stoic, Memento Mori isn't a morbid obsession, it is a grounding practice, a tether to reality. Seneca, Marcus Aurelius, Epictetus, they all understood that death is not something to be feared, but rather something to be acknowledged and embraced. When we reflect on death, we are reminded that we are not infinite, that time is our most precious resource. This shifts the focus from the trivial and transient to the essential and eternal. How often do we waste our days as though they were endless? Perhaps we busy ourselves with minor worries, avoid risks, and put off joy for a more convenient time. But Memento Mori shakes us from this illusion, saying, that time you think you have, it's slipping through your fingers. It urges us to prioritize the things that matter: love, wisdom, courage, connection, because these are the things that will echo beyond our final breath. This Stoic practice enhances life because it sharpens our focus on the present moment. Imagine walking through your days with the acute awareness that each one could be your last. Not in a fearful, anxious way, but in a way that makes the taste of morning coffee more profound, the embrace of a loved one more tender, and the small joys of life more vivid. It's not about being overwhelmed by death, but being inspired by it. But does reflecting on death free us from fear? There's an intriguing paradox at the heart of Memento Mori. By reflecting on death, we paradoxically become less afraid of it. When we accept death as a natural part of life, it loses its power to terrify. For the Stoics, death is not the opposite of life, but a part of its cycle. Once we stop avoiding or denying this truth, we find a kind of freedom. A freedom from the fear of the unknown, from the fear of wasted time, from the fear of missing out. Think about the ways in which the fear of death manifests in modern life. The endless pursuit of youth, the frantic accumulation of wealth, the obsession with leaving a legacy. These are all ways we attempt to cheat death, to carve out a sense of permanence in an impermanent world. But in doing so, we often miss out on the very life we're trying to preserve. The Stoics offer an alternative. Accept death and you'll learn how to live, living a life of purpose through Memento Mori. Once we embrace the reality of death, life takes on a new clarity. Our goals, ambitions, and desires are filtered through a different lens, one that strips away the superficial. What truly matters to you? What legacy do you want to leave, not in the sense of fame or fortune, but in the impact you have on the people in the world around you? Memento Mori invites us to engage deeply with these questions, offering a kind of existential compass. It's a call to live a life of virtue, guided by principles that endure beyond our physical existence. The Stoics believe that living in accordance with nature, practicing virtue, and maintaining a sense of equanimity are the keys to a good life. It is important to view death as an ever-present advisor, reminding us not to waste our time on trivial pursuits. Instead, we are encouraged to act with intention and purpose, knowing that each day, each moment is a gift. The Stoic secret unraveled through applicative steps. Applying the philosophy of Memento Mori to everyday life can sound deep and abstract, but it's surprisingly practical when broken down. Consider these steps. 1. Start with morning reflection. When you wake up, instead of diving straight into your day, take a moment to pause and reflect. Ask yourself, what if today was my last day? How would I live it differently? It's not about feeling morbid, but about getting real with what's important. Maybe it's calling a loved one, working on that passion project, or simply being more present in each moment. 2. Let go of trivial worries. A big part of Stoicism is focusing only on what you can control. So the next time you catch yourself stressed over something small, like a traffic jam, a work hiccup, or a minor inconvenience, ask yourself, in the grand scheme of things, does this really matter? 3. Take inventory of your time. We often think we have endless tomorrows, but how often do we waste today? Try this. At the end of the day, reflect on how you spent your time. Were you fully engaged, or did hours slip by, mindlessly scrolling through social media? Be honest with yourself. 4. Embrace impermanence in relationships. We often take the people in our lives for granted, assuming they'll always be there. But part of Memento Mori is recognizing that everyone we love, including ourselves, has a limited time. Instead of letting this thought scare you, let it motivate you to be more present in your relationships. 5. Practice gratitude daily. Gratitude is a powerful companion to Memento Mori. When you remember that life is temporary, the little things start to feel more extraordinary. Make it a habit to end your day by listing things you're grateful for, whether it's the warmth of the sun, a meaningful conversation, or simply the fact that you're alive. 6. Create a Memento Mori reminder. Find a personal symbol of Memento Mori, something that reminds you of life's brevity. It could be a simple bracelet, a journal, or even an image on your phone. Every time you see it, take a second to reflect on how you're spending your time and energy. This little visual cue can be a powerful way to stay grounded in the present and avoid getting lost in the daily grind. 7. Set goals with morality in mind. When thinking about your life goals, ask yourself, if I knew my time was limited, would this still be important to me? This question helps you align your pursuits with your deepest values. Maybe it means prioritizing personal growth over material success, or making time for passions you've been neglecting. Let the awareness of mortality guide you toward a more purposeful life. 8. Contemplate death regularly, but gently. Finally, take time to contemplate death, not in a morbid or obsessive way, but as a gentle reminder. You can do this during meditation, a quiet walk, or even while journaling. Ask yourself questions like, what am I afraid of when it comes to death? And how would my life change if I accepted death fully? The more comfortable you become with this reality, the more it will enhance your sense of aliveness. On a lighter note, you might find surprising that during the Renaissance, it wasn't just a philosophical practice. It was actually a huge trend in art and fashion. People would wear rings or brooches with little skulls on them as a constant reminder of their mortality. Some wealthy individuals even commissioned paintings of themselves alongside symbols of death like skulls, hourglasses, or wilting flowers, as a way to stay humble and mindful of life's impermanence. It's kind of wild to think that what we now view as a deep, stoic meditation on death was, back then, also a part of people's daily aesthetic choices. Death as a fashion statement, right? Conclusion: embrace death, elevate life. Memento Mori is more than a meditation on death. It's a celebration of life. It's a practice that invites us to shed our illusions of immortality and embrace the fragile, fleeting nature of our existence. Through this lens, we see that life's brevity is not a curse, but a blessing. It sharpens our focus, clears our vision, and encourages us to live with greater urgency and purpose. In reflecting on death, we learn to live, not in fear of what we will lose, but in gratitude for what we have now. And perhaps, in the end, that is the greatest gift of all. I think the Stoics said it best, and I'd love to leave you with some words from Marcus Aurelius. He writes, "You could leave life right now. Let that determine what you do and say and think." It's such a simple but profound reminder. Whatever you're facing today, big or small, carry that thought with you. Let it inspire you to live with intention and focus on what truly matters.